Alrighty, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever the hell you're listening to this and whatever time. My name is Greg,
And I'm Gabriel.
and welcome to the Sunshine Reformer podcast. I don't remember what episode number this is, but
I
that's
think we're on
okay.
9.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're on 9.
Are we?
Yeah.
That's a lot. Cheers. Today we're drinking delicious beers. Gabriel, you are drinking something from my wonderful home state of Michigan.
I'm drinking Founders Porter, Dark, Rich, and Sexy.
If those walls at Founders Brewery could talk, they would say that, man, that Greg likes to drink beer and get drunk inside of my building. I don't know where I went with that. I've been to Founders many times. It's in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's a beautiful city and a beautiful state that I miss a lot, and I want to go back. Yeah, Florida's great, but Michigan's also great. And speaking of Florida, I am drinking Funky Buddha Floridian Hefeweizen.
My home.
It's been on the show before. It's a good standby, and I like it more than I think it's called Florida Cracker, from Cigar City. I just really like it. So, cheers.
Cheers.
See, yeah, so good. Banana, clove,
That sounds awesome.
maltiness. I love it. Okay, so, man, oh man, we have seen some shit
There's so
in the
much that's
last
happened. So much
14 days. I try to, I've got my little Alexa Echo thing in my kitchen, and every morning I ask it to tell me the news, and every morning I shed a tear because of everything that is going on. Do we actually have, like, a fucking president or whatever?
We have a president and we have a president-elect. Joe Biden does not become president till sometime in January. I think it's January 21st by noon.
But that is official?
It's official that should be happening. He's officially, and that's why there's a distinction. He's president-elect. Donald Trump is still sitting president.
Right.
So
that's kind of what I thought, but I don't know if I missed something because I tend to tune it out. I watch what I think is important, and then, whatever.
yeah, all those minor details don't really matter too much.
Exactly. In other news, you and I met for the first time and gave each other a bro hug.
Yeah. And I shot a lot of guns.
Yeah,
oh, man,
we all did.
I shot my first shotgun.
Yeah, so shout out to our good friend James from the Tampa chapter of the SRA. He organizes once a month a range day for them, and I've been out there a couple times, but Gabriel, in case you don't remember, I think we've mentioned it before, but you live sort of adjacent to St. Augustine in that part of Florida. And so that's kind of far from where we are and where Tampa is. But you were a trooper, man, and you made it out there, which I was so happy to have you there and meet my wife and everything.
Yeah, I had to organize a babysitting plan and then launch point from there because my mom ended up watching the baby. And she lives way closer to Tampa than I do. She's only 2 hours away, whereas I'm like 3.5 hours away.
Right.
So that just ended up working out pretty nice.
Yeah. So we had a fun little range day. Everybody came out. Well, not everyone. Most people came out from Orlando and Tampa, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of fun guns, lots of AK-47s, of course.
The guy who was like smoking the cigar and he's dual wielding AKs and like shooting 60 just straight down range, just like having a good. Oh my god, that was like comically memey.
I think they got it on the internet somehow.
That was so much fun.
I got to shoot my new carry gun. No brass, no ammo. This is an empty gun, which I will talk about later in the podcast. I got a new carry gun that is very exciting for me.
And I finally shot that Canik too. and that was like,
yes,
that was the
which
selling
wasn't.
point for me. That was like butter as fuck. Holy shit.
I know. It's almost as if I know what I'm talking about.
Oh my god. So like all those who were like on the fence about a canic, they didn't really know. Maybe it was like the country of origin, you know, forget all that shit. Just go get one, cuz that's like, I'm going to have to figure out how to get rid of the Taurus and get the canic, cuz that shit was great.
I mean, you could always just keep the Taurus and as a backup, you know.
I don't know if I can justify it. I don't think I can.
You know,
I got to sell it to the wife.
Right. That's fine. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
And what else?
Shooting 2 liters is great.
Yeah, I think I aged about 10 years in the last 2 weeks with my new beard. I feel like fucking Tom Hanks from Castaway. It's just been such a stressful situation in time.
It's
if
like
it hasn't been all...
It's the pressed Play-Doh things. We put the Play-Doh in the head and you just push it down and the beard comes out. I know.
Exactly. So it's been crazy, but we are surviving and making it through. So shooting guns helps. It's very therapeutic.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was tons of fun. Also shooting like melons and squash. I guess I didn't have like a high enough caliber, or maybe it was like maybe someone was using hollow points or something. But I was shooting a squash, and I couldn't tell if I was hitting it, so I just kept shooting at it, and like eventually I developed like a hole that I could see. Right. It was very it was not as interesting as I thought it would be. I was thinking like I'd shoot it and then, but it never did. Right. It just kind of passed through.
Was that with your 9mm?
No, that was with my 223.
The AR?
Yeah.
Oh, that should have done it. I mean, maybe it's just a really hardy vegetable.
It could be the round. I don't know though. I don't know. I don't really know enough to.
Rifle rounds are traveling a lot faster than pistol rounds, so that should have been the case. But I don't know what to tell you.
It also could have just been like old as fuck potentially, and then just maybe the composition of it being over ripened causes a difference. But it was a squash. Someone said they shot a melon and it just blew up. So maybe
melons have a lot of like water and stuff in them.
That makes sense.
And that usually is the reason why, I believe.
That makes sense.
But yeah. Oh. So anyways, so yeah, a lot of stuff happened, and we're going to try to cover a lot of stuff here today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is my new gun, because number one, it's fucking awesome. And number two, it's not going to take me that long to talk about, because we have a lot of other political bullshit to talk about. So I'll get it out of the way. And if you want to bring the website there, Gabe. So like I said, I've cleared the weapon for those of you on YouTube. No brass, no ammo, drill sergeant. So this is the Springfield Hellcat. Yes, I know it's not brand new, but it's fairly new from Springfield. I'll try to get it in close there.
Let me switch over real quick.
Springfield Armory. Says, of course, Hellcat on the other side there. And I, as Gabriel pointed out, like I've always been a big fan of Canic handguns, and I talked about them a lot on the show. But for me, I was having trouble carrying it consistently, comfortably. I'll put it that way. In my, I had a really nice inside the waistband light bearing Kydex holster that was made specifically for the light that I had and everything. It was very high quality, but for some reason I have a really nice gun belt. The whole nine, and just for some reason, I don't know if it's just the way my body is or whatever, I just found myself being more uncomfortable than not when I would carry it, especially with the 15-round magazine. And so I recently came into some disposable income, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to find a better carry gun that is more comfortable and just shoots, just as good and whatever. So, of course, I hopped on the trusty old internet, and I did what I do best, which is internet research, which is kind of an oxymoron about like, you know what I mean? Like you can't really trust anything you read on the internet, but I think you still can kind of. And yeah, so it came down to this guy, and of course the only other gun that's in this class is the 6-hour P365, of which there are two versions. There's the regular one and there's the XL version, which is a gun that another friend of ours just got, Comrade Smith. He, I think, tried to come out to the range day, but his wife's got some, she's immunocompromised, so he's super cautious, which is fine. It would have been nice to kind of compare the two, but it is what it is. No worries. I've never shot the XL version of the 365. I have shot the regular 365, and I do like that gun also. The reason why I went with the Hellcat, and there are, I know you've got the website pulled up. So there's a few features here. It's got an 11-round magazine, which is what this one is, and a 13-round magazine, which with one in the chamber puts it at 14. That's just a ton of capacity in a very, very small package. You can see that
it's
basically
like the size of your hand.
It's like the size of my hand. It's very small. And I know you shot it also, and you just said it was a little snappy.
Yeah, but I think that's just because the size, weight, you know. I don't think that had anything to do with, like, you know, the gun or whatever.
Right. It is a little snappy just because of the size, but I think still for the size, it's still a really nice gun, nice shooting gun, in this size category. So I also happened to get the optic ready version, which means it's cut for a red dot, which is really nice. That was important to me. It has a very bright, trying to get this on the camera. Right there. So it's got a really bright front sight that's made out of tritium, which is glows in the day and night, which is nice. The grip texture on it is very, very aggressive, which is, again, good for a small gun. And honestly, even with the 11-round magazine in, I can get a good 3-finger grip on it, no problem. So overall, the build quality is very good. And yeah, so the reason why I went with this over the 365 came down to just a couple factors. Capacity was one of them. This one just simply holds more ammo than the 365, even though it's just one round. Coming as close to 15 rounds was important to me, and it's just sort of like, why not? And then I also got a really good deal being in the military. So I got a military discount on it, which brought the price down to where I was comfortable spending. I did end up selling my Canic, which also kind of helped with the cost, which was nice. But I'm in love with this thing, and I've ordered another holster for it. Holster hasn't come in yet, but I do have a belly band holster, which I'm not going to get into what that is, but it's kind of a temporary, not amazing solution, but it works in a jam. And I tried carrying it with that, and I can just already tell, like, this thing's just going to disappear, you know, in my...
Well, it's so small.
It's just going to feel like... It's just going to be so much more comfortable to carry. So I'm just very happy with it. It is, of course, a little bit more expensive than, you know, all of the other brands that I've looked at, but I just kind of like in the way of... what's his name? Tom Haverford. Treat yourself. if you can, if you have the means, go ahead and do that. So that's what I did, and I'm happy I did. It's a very, very good handgun. The trigger's very nice. I can't speak anything more positive about it. It's just really, really cool.
Bonus: the name is really dope. Hellcat.
Yeah, I named it Mittens.
I just like, it's so great. It's just so great.
I love it. So that's going to be another gun on my recommendation list. If you're looking for something that's ultra concealable, concealed carry, you know, for men and women, whatever your purpose is for, or however you plan on carrying, it's going to meet, I think, pretty much everyone's needs. So that is that.
It's really cool.
Yeah. But I am really glad that the person that I sold the my Canic to is still in the SRA, and I'm probably still going to shoot it again, or get to shoot it again.
Keep it in the family.
Nostalgic, yeah. And yeah, those are great guns too. All right, so moving on from there, you want to jump into what you had planned, or?
Sure. So I guess we were trying to keep it somewhat loose because like so much has happened. But I just saw this article today from AP News. I think I linked it in our little group chat that we had going on. But it's the hate crimes in the U.S. reached its highest level in more than a decade, which is unfortunate and kind of something we almost expected. Like we don't expect like, you know, the Civil War, you know, but we expect like violence to increase. We expected this lack of civility between individuals due to increased tensions between ideologies, just generally speaking. And it was just kind of on top of all the other stuff. This was like kind of sad, but I also wanted to bring it to attention because like these are hate crimes. So obviously this is targeting people of color, of different ethnicities, of different sexualities, gender identities. So for any of those listening who identify with, you know, what would typically be associated with a hate crime, you know, this is targeting you. So just be mindful, be aware of your surroundings. I know this is stressful. These are stressful times. If you have like a group of people that you can be with or you can plan to be with whenever you go out in public, that's like usually the best way to deter like violence happening to you, is just being a group. And it's really sad to like have to say these things and like give this advice, but you're just trying to avoid confrontation. If you don't have access to like a personal defense weapon of some sort, you know, do the group thing. It has a high effective rate. Just be safe, you know. As far as this specific article, just be safe. So that's all I wanted to kind of say on that real quick, because I personally have family who they would be targeted because of this. And I definitely have friends who would be targeted because of this as well. So it's just be mindful.
I know people personally that have been targeted.
Yeah.
People that I've got a couple friends that live in California who are in the trans community and other communities who have been not like, you know, they didn't get injured, fortunately, but they have been confronted and harassed. So it wasn't anything too serious, but still, nonetheless, it happened, and it's still something to be cognizant of. Speaking of personal defense weapons, I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before, just kind of going back to firearms. But of course, there are many people in this community and in marginalized communities in general that, for whatever reason, you know, either they can't purchase a firearm legally, or whatever the case is. Have we talked about like non-lethal, like self-defense stuff?
I don't know if we have.
I can't remember, but either way, there are lots of non-lethal options out there for anyone who can't, for any reason, purchase a firearm. I think we talked about like martial arts and stuff.
We might have, yeah.
Getting into that kind of stuff, but if that's not something that you want to get into, if it's for like a disability or whatever reason, you know, there's lots of different like pepper sprays, and I'm not sure I don't know that much about like tasers and stuff, but there's definitely like it's an option, yeah. But like, for example, there's a pepper spray that made by Kimber, which is a firearm company, but they just happen to make a really effective pepper spray that's actually shaped like a gun, and you kind of shoot it in the same way. you aim and point and shoot.
That's pretty cool.
And that's so I've heard really good things about it, and it's not too expensive. So there's definitely ways to defend yourself that are non-lethal, that are legal, that you can carry with you.
Also, just being in shape. Like the vast majority of people don't know any martial arts. The vast majority of people like don't exercise on a daily basis. So like sometimes even just being like fit, you're gonna be more in shape than than any like assailant possibly. So that just gives you like better odds of just, you know, being better off.
Sure.
So just simple things like that. I know that's really hard. It's it's easy to say, oh yeah, just exercise. I have a hard time exercising. So
yeah. I try to get out there at least a couple times a week, go for a run, whatever, just to stay in shape. But even that's hard sometimes if you get busy with work or whatever.
It is.
Yeah.
So I get it, but just simple things.
Yeah. And what did you have next?
Okay, so I don't know what we should be talking about. There's just so much. I guess let's start from the beginning. So
election night.
So super tense. You know, of course, Joe Biden wins all the states that we expect him to win. Trump wins pretty much all the states that we expect him to win. We had a couple. Excuse me. We had a couple doozies. Georgia, fucking Comrade Georgia, out of nowhere, turning out blue. Thank you, Atlanta.
It was just made official like recently, right?
Yeah.
A couple days ago.
It wasn't officially like on election night, but like everyone kind of like had a feeling, I think.
No,
because
I'm saying they just called it like within the last 2 days for Georgia, right?
Maybe 4 days. It was.
I know it was recently.
It was recent. It took them forever.
Right.
But yeah, Comrade Georgia, new swing state. I feel so bad. I can't remember her name, but there was this one woman who was able to sign up like a jillion people to vote. And I'm pretty sure she single-handedly.
The governor, or the not the governor. It was the woman who was running for governor. Was
it Stacey Abrams or something?
Yeah.
Is that her?
Because I follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, just fucking this amazing superhero-esque individual was able to just get like an amazing amount of people to just sign up to vote, which is great. It's fantastic.
She's in the Georgia House of Representatives.
Something else that I'm thinking of just because of this. It was either Wisconsin or Michigan. They had like a 90-something% voter turnout. Which is like unheard of, by the way. Oh, that was another thing. Voter turnout was insane this year.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, I think this was the most people that have ever voted ever in the history. Yeah. Which is amazing.
Yeah. So like a lot of really great things happened. Some bad things also happened.
It's true.
Trump, for some reason, was only 5 million votes away from being tied with Biden, which is
insane.
Is scary because I genuinely would have thought that more conservatives would have pulled away. And you know what? They probably did to vote Jo Jorgensen, honestly, because there's a few states where we saw where Jo Jorgensen pulled in and she comraded the whole like vote away from Trump. Like I believe that was Wisconsin specifically, where like Jo Jorgensen pulled votes to the point that if Trump would have gotten those votes, Trump would have won the state instead, or something like that. So my guess is that those people probably voted third party, because those types of people, they vote based on like their morals rather than political strategy. Which is fine, you know. I know people on the left who voted their morals instead of political strategy. I know people who voted for the Green Party. I'll disagree with them on almost every level. On a national scale, individually, like local areas, I probably don't have much disagreement with. You know, if you're able to get a ballot for a local area, you probably have like an opportunity to actually do something with that. But if we're talking the president, we're talking the majority, but not all, like House of Representatives or Senate seats. You're not going to... Sorry,
how many votes did Kanye get?
Oh, dude, I totally forgot about Kanye.
He got like 20,000 or something stupid.
1,266 in Vermont. Like 1,266 in Vermont.
He got 60,000 votes nationally.
Nationally? Okay. For some reason, it pulled me straight to the Vermont AP election thing. I don't know what that's all about. So
that wasn't as many as I thought, but it's just insane that he was even on the ballot.
Well, when you're rich and famous, you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
Which is
Joe Jorgensen got 1.5 million votes nationally.
That's actually that's pretty good, but that's not as good as Gary Johnson. Didn't he get like 3% of the vote in 2016?
I'm not sure. I wasn't paying attention as much back then.
The biggest thing I think that we can probably learn from this is that Democratic voter turnout, whether you're like truly a Democrat, if you're just signed up for the sake of it, because you don't have a viable option otherwise, I think that's like that what speaks volumes the most. Like especially in the case of Georgia, where Democratic turnout flipped the state to a different color in the same time period that both Democrats and Republicans were experiencing the highest voter turnout in history ever. Georgia lost the Republican vote. Mm-hmm. Just think about that. That's insane.
It's totally insane.
It's just a matter of like people coming out to vote or being able to come out to vote or being able to mail in their ballot, you know?
It was close, but it did flip. So
yeah. And that's amazing.
I think, just like you said, I was shocked. Not shocked, but just, surprised that Donald Trump got so many votes that he did.
Yeah, it was.
I didn't. Obviously, I took his base not as seriously as I should have been.
Well, it's more of a concern than I wanted it to be.
Yeah, and it's going to be the same. As much noise as, Democrats made 4 years ago when Trump was elected. I think his base are going to make more noise,
mm-hmm.
And I think, like you said, I think they're going to become violent, and they already kind of have.
Yeah.
There's
a ton of politicians even who are like standing by Trump, and they're saying things like, we should recount, we should really press into the lawsuits that we have active and going on, which, by the way, most of them have been either just completely pushed away by the judges or otherwise. But it's just like to have this much federal support for someone who is literally trying to break the Constitution right now. Like right now, as we're speaking, there are lawsuits active that are...
Yeah.
They were trying to take Pennsylvania's electoral college votes completely off the map.
I know.
That's one of the active lawsuits. So that's just really concerning that not only do we have those people who are already federally elected, but we have 73 million people who would still vote that,
Mm-hmm.
That's really concerning. It's incredibly concerning.
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. It makes me not as optimistic about, not necessarily like changing people over to, our side or, the other side or whatever. But I just really have I have a dream. I have a reality that I'd like to live in where like it or not, pre-Trump and sort of even, I would say even pre like Obama's second term, kind of in that era and prior, like it didn't seem like it was that bad from a political standpoint. And that's, there was still a lot of like, people that were passionate and all that kind of stuff. But
it didn't seem so outright fascist, Yeah,
it's just we just have to stop like arguing so much and just get back to finding common ground on certain issues, which may or may not ever happen again. I don't know what's going to happen in 4 years from now. That's another kind of thing that we need to talk about, because I don't think Joe Biden's going to run for another term.
No. If he is, he's going to be a puppet. Someone's hand's going to be up his butt, and they're going to be puppeting him, because I don't think he's honestly going to make it through too much of this term.
Right, and that's something to consider. Like, yeah, it's cool that he won this time around, but like, it's only 4 years. What are we going to do in another 4 years from now, as the DNC or whatever?
That's another thing too, is the executive orders, and this is something I hate so fucking much. Is like, oh yeah, we'll just get the next president in, and they'll just executive order their way out of all of this bullshit. Well, then they'll just there's going to be another Trump, and that Trump's just going to executive order all the stuff that we executive ordered. So it's like
But is there going to be another Trump?
I think honestly, like the Republican Party is probably going to want to push for another Trump-esque candidate, maybe a little bit more tactful, but they need to win that like populist fervor if they want to continue. Trump was like a hardcore fucking populist, a similar way that Bernie Sanders was. He was hardcore populist, but he was obviously populist in a different way, whereas Bernie Sanders would push for like equal rights and Medicare for all, and just like overall egalitarian, and just all these like very humanitarian things. Trump was looking for like the easy isolationist type, the protectionist type of populist. The anti-immigration and anti-free trade, and we need to focus on domestic whatever, blah 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 blah, and what have you. So they're going to want another populist if they want to win. If the Republicans want to keep winning the presidency, they need to have a populist in the seat who can speak to the racism and the bigotry that the Republican Party tends to cater to.
Right. I'm going to type this in, just next Republican.
And for anybody who's listening who may be a Republican or may consider themselves a conservative, who may have voted Republican, you yourself may not be racist, but the policies you support are. The policies you support are bigoted. The policies you support are racist. If you supported Trump or you voted for literally any Republican ever, period, no question mark, probably after like the 60s, give or take, you voted for bigotry and racism. Like there's just no separating it at this point, because the past like 60, 70 years of like what Republicans have been pushing for has led to Trump. That like Trump is what they wanted this entire time. Back when like Reagan and Nixon were running, and they were doing that dog whistly bullshit down in the South, and they had literally something called the Southern Strategy, where they would say things. You can't say that you hate insert N-word people or whatever, but you can say that you're against segregation because of states' rights. When the campaign manager says that, and then we 40 years later are at the point where we have Trump saying that brown people coming from Mexico are rapists and murderers, like that started back then. So if you've ever voted for a Republican, past like again since the 60s or whatever, you're supporting racism at this point. I don't have anything else for you. I'm tired of arguing it. There's nothing to argue about. The facts are there. It's just
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, it's kind of like the way that I talk to. I've had some conversations with some Republican voting people in my life, and the way that I put it, it's like is there an issue in Mexico with cartels and with drugs and with their government being fucked up and blah 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 whatever? Yes, there is a problem, but 100% labeling every single person that wants to come to America from Mexico or Guatemala or Honduras or wherever, fucking anywhere in
Mm-hmm.
Central America, 100% labeling those people as rapists and criminals and thieves and whatever the hell you want to call them is just completely misguided and wrong
Mm-hmm.
and not correct at all. I kind of say this jokingly, but like anyone who's ever worked in a restaurant, like a who's been serious in the restaurant game, or just look around you, like anyone that's fucking the service people at Disney World, the maids and stuff, the cleaning staff, all of those people are Hispanic in origin, probably from one of those countries I mentioned, and those people fucking hustle harder than anyone I've ever met, any white person I've ever met in my life, um, or at least the vast majority of them.
Mm-hmm.
And all those people want to do is come here and work and make money for their families and fucking
And just
have a
exist. They
goddamn
just want to like
just
exist
exist.
without having fear above their heads constantly. Oh my God, is the cartel gonna
Yeah,
come over here like tomorrow and like graphic verbiage or whatever, but like warning. But is the cartel gonna come over tomorrow and like just slit all of our throats and just leave us like naked and dead or something? Because
right.
like that shit happens. That shit
It's the
happens in
same.
Mexico. They just want to
It's
like
the
live a
same
normal
fucking
ass
thing.
life, you know?
Yeah, it's the same thing as fucking Al Qaeda in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Because also, when I was in Afghanistan, I met a fuck ton of people that were just fucking villagers and just farmers and just people that just wanted to live their fucking lives. I don't agree with their religion. I don't agree with a lot of the ways that they like treat women and stuff, and the Muslim faith and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just people that want to fucking work and live their lives and make enough money to get by and have a fucking house and whatever.
They just
Like
want to exist, you know?
it's just normal shit, that everyone on the planet wants.
They
And it's a
had
very
just as
small.
much of a decision to exist as any other person had the decision to exist. We shouldn't
Yeah,
we shouldn't keep away their opportunity to exist just because, they come from like a shitty place, or the color of their skin
right.
or whatever.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot to unpack there, but just on the surface level, that's kind of what my feeling is there. I actually lived in I lived in a city called McAllen, Texas, which is on the southeastern border of Texas and Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's a whole nother world down there, man. Like everybody down there that I met was like amazingly friendly, and the food was great, and the people were awesome and just welcoming. Like I was one of very few white people in that area. Like everybody else was like at least half Mexican, or of course probably born there. And just back less than 150 years ago, all of that area of Texas was still Mexico.
Yeah.
So like it's like
There
it's
are
crazy.
probably Americans who have more heritage in America, but are of Mexican descent back like 150 years ago.
Yeah,
Where
I
than
can't
some of the
I
white
can't
people
remember.
here who claim to
I
have
can't
more.
remember. Yeah, I can't remember who it was. It was some Latino or Latina celebrity. The name it escapes me, but she was saying that she had family, or she had a like property, like a family farm or something like that, in Corpus Christi,
Mm-hmm.
and her family had been living there since before the fucking Texas, whatever that was, Mexican American War. And when her family had that land, it was Mexico. And then when the fucking war happened, and everything else. They drew the lines, the border lines, or the Rio Grande, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's Texas, and it's like my fucking family has been living on that land since before, you know, it was Texas.
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the case, I think, with a lot of people. So, yeah, it's a nightmare.
I don't even know how we got on that topic.
I don't know. Just talking about, like you said, like Republican policies and stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I remember now. Yeah.
But we can move on.
Yeah. You want to talk about, I believe it was Virginia or North Carolina. They elected, I believe it was a senator into office who's also a Nazi.
I think it was North Carolina.
He went to like a Nazi leader memorial thing, and he
went
hailed
to the Eagle's Nest.
Yeah, he hailed and said something along the lines of "My Führer," or however you say it in German. I don't speak German.
Madison Cawthorn.
Yeah, man. Oh shit. You want to talk, man? So not only, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like Republicans.
He's only 25.
Republicans are willing to fall in line so easily, and I wish the left could kind of do this, but I can see why we wouldn't do this. But they're so easily able to fall in line. Like the Republican spectrum starts like at the far extreme libertarian, get the government away from my shit, and goes all the way over to literally Nazis. And they'll still vote the same party for the most part. Obviously there's a few outliers like with Joe Jorgensen and like Gary Johnson 2016, but like, Gary Johnson had more votes than Joe Jorgensen did. Mm-hmm. So how many of those people stayed voting for Trump? How many people stayed voting for another Republican? I know like the Democratic Party like sucks ass. I bet like libertarians feel the same way when they're voting for like Republican, like, I really hate this guy. He's not really small government. He just says whatever, but I'll vote for him because I'm not going to vote for some damn commie, Unironically, that's probably the head conversation happening there. But it's like, I know Democrats suck, but they're not fascists. I don't know how to like express this anymore. The Democrats are ass. Their policies are not enough. They don't go far enough. Everybody hates them. They're not fascists, though. I would rather live under neoliberalism and like really placatey, whatever austerity measures, whatever. I'd rather live under that than actual fascism, because everybody who voted for Joe Biden under fascism would be in a camp right now. So like, and this goes back to like, I know, vote Green Party, vote DSA, and I'm going to like, crystal ball something here, I guess. I don't know. But if we don't figure out like the next step, politically speaking, what's going to end up happening is that we're going to end up pulling away votes from the main party, the current main party, which is Democrats. And we're going to be splitting the vote in a lot of these places between a really far left and like a moderate left position. And that's a really great opportunity for a unified Republican Party who, again, as I stated, goes all the way from libertarian to fascism, to just kind of swoop in and come in with like, 35% of the vote or something. And they end up getting the office because 35% was more than both of those super leftist parties or something. In some states they might have like a runoff election like Georgia's having in January, but not all states are going to do that. Maybe it's a local thing. Maybe it's your mayor, maybe it's your governor, and they're the ones who ends up, oh wow, now you have a fucking Nazi as your governor instead of like the really cool dude or whatever. So that's one of my concerns, is like we're going to end up splitting the vote between two parties and either have a shit ton of runoff elections or see a lot more Republicans getting into office who are really just fucking Nazis and shit. And that's like one of my biggest concerns right now is that, if we're not careful.
So this is kind of something that I talked about with my wife. as far as the main policies, so like, healthcare and the gun thing is like not as big as far as I'm concerned, but
yeah,
education, healthcare, the wage gap, and just earning a livable wage, all that kind of stuff. This is all of those things are sort of the Republicans have been not trying to help out, right?
No.
In the last whatever. As far as I'm concerned, it's not sustainable.
No.
And I don't know. I think it might have been you that we were talking about actually with this. I just don't understand how a party is going to continue to have this sort of trajectory when as a society, like if this is how you're going to govern yourself in the Republican way, how do you expect the United States to remain competitive on the world stage as far as, if we're not educating people, if our healthcare sucks.
Oh, they don't give a shit.
Or if it's too expensive. Yeah, but it's not sustainable in the long term.
Well, they don't care.
And it's I know, but
I know I know these are like legitimate concerns. They just don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't yeah. I think I was talking about this. There's two types of education typically. There's a formal education that you get in school, and there's an informal education that you get at home.
Right.
A lot of country folk, rural folk, people who tend to vote Republican or conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call it, they tend to have a lot more of that secondary than they do the former. Not all of them, obviously. Some of them, like Jo Jorgensen, is just a dipshit with a degree. She's a doctor, and she has a doctorate in psychology, and for some reason doesn't see the mass inequality issues that have come from capitalism.
Right.
But the second one plays a really important role because you think of it, you're a kid on the farm, you're working like half as much as your parents are, just because you're the one going to school, and then you come home, and then you also have like a shit ton of chores. You wake up early, you do chores, you go to school, you come back home, you do chores, and all that time your parents are working at the farm or whatever. That's like a lot of rural America, to some degree. Some more so than others. Like Florida's a little iffy because we have a really large population density almost anywhere. Just because we're such a big population state. But it's that second one. If you want to like change these people's minds, you got to start young, and it's got to be like you got to affect that second one somehow. I don't know how. I don't have a policy like that would fix it. But that's how it's got to get done. You got to fix that at home teaching stuff.
Right.
The 4 hours in the morning, the 4 hours at night when you're home, you're hearing your dad or your mom talking about that bullshit Democrat, that lib cuck socialist, trying to take away the family farm and ruin their lives,
Right.
8 hours a day or more. Can you imagine that? Oh.
No. And I don't that's why I don't understand why like I grew up in the suburb, like in the cities.
Mm-hmm.
Big Detroit's a fairly large city, and there's a lot of Republican votes that are in the suburbs, not necessarily the city. We saw that in the Wayne County vote, which is where Detroit proper is. That's what turned the election for Michigan. But everything outside of Detroit is very Republican, and it's like, fucking why? Like, you have nothing to gain. I mean, I guess unless you talk about like the capitalist.
It's like literally, bullshit. I bet their average income in the suburbs is something like $80K in 2020.
Oh yeah,
$80K.
Easily.
You're not like, there's nothing that a Republican policy will do for you when you're making $80K. You have to be making like $400K a year before Republican policy actually fucking matters to you. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, it's just really frustrating. I don't know. There's a lot of nuances to it, and I don't pretend like I know all the answers because that's why you're here.
No, I don't know all of them either.
But
I don't know all of them.
you know, it is what it is. So I'm looking at. I know you don't have this particular site up, so I'm just looking at this. Just this Washington Post ad. I just typed in like election update. And he's been trying to like coordinate his transfer of power or whatever, right, with Trump.
Oh yeah, and Trump just stops it. He's like, "Nah, fam."
Yeah. And then I watched a YouTube video recently of Barack Obama when he was trying to do the same thing when Trump got elected. And he was super cool about the whole thing. You know, I'm sure he had his own personal feelings about changing power over to Trump, but I don't know. This is just I'm always just kind of at a loss for words about it, just because he is such a piece of human garbage dog shit. I don't know what is going on.
Yeah.
With Trump.
Well, I was listening to NPR because I have a lot of time. I had a lot of time in the car, a lot of driving the past week.
Yes.
And
you went to Georgia, right?
Oh yeah, I went to Savannah. And man, I got opinions about that place too. I have good ones, but I also have bad ones, and it's a really good example of why Democrat policies don't really go far enough.
Right.
But I don't know if that's appropriate for this or not.
You can talk about whatever you want.
But what was it that they were talking? Oh yeah, they had like one of the head honcho dudes at one of the companies that just came out with the COVID vaccine. There's two, I think, major companies, Pfizer and Moderna or something like that, and I think he was from the second one. He was initially on the board, and then he stepped down and he took a position as like a head scientist dude, excuse me, or something like that. And he was talking about, I believe it was him that was talking about how it's really important for, I might be wrong, but it was important for Biden to take over the Trump stuff and like know what the plan is for COVID, because as soon as, you know, there's 60 days, give or take, 60 plus or minus days, and then Biden becomes president. They desperately need the information of the past 4 years to not just get caught up on COVID, but also get caught up on, like, you know, the Iran deal fell apart. You know, that was a big ass thing. What the hell's happening with North Korea now? What's our relationship with them? You know, and not just like what the public knows, but also like what the president knows. The TPP fell apart because Trump pulled out of that, which I got fucking things on that too, because China's stepping in and they're taking over the Southeast and Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia with a new trade deal that the U.S. didn't get to sit in because of Trump, which I know, fuck U.S. imperialism, blah, 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 whatever. But China, I think we can agree, China is probably way worse than the U.S. when it comes to human rights violations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So who do you want at the helm? You know, I would rather have, optimistically, ideally, it'd be better than the U.S. But would you rather have the U.S. or China at the helm of trade deals?
Right.
I'd rather have China, but that's like that's a whole other fucking tangent. But like all this shit, you know, like what's our even the Middle East, what's our status in the Middle East on a like a need to know basis for the president? You know, like all this shit matters. This past 4 fucking years of just a ton of stuff that's happened that the Biden administration needs to know, or any president would have needed to know. And just withholding that information so bad.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, eventually my hope is that, you know, we're getting to be the end of the month here in November, next couple of weeks. We got the holiday season, of course, coming up with December. And then it's January 21st.
I think so. I haven't actually looked it up, but it's like January something.
Is the day, the inauguration. I'm hoping that it's just a bunch of hearsay bullshit, political blah 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 news garbage. And at some point,
January 20th or the 21st, if the 20th is a Sunday. So it's going to be, it sounds like the first Monday or the third Monday in January. It sounds like, give or take.
Yeah. And so I just hope that it's a bunch of bullshit and that he just concedes or whatever, and then hopefully works with the administrations, work with each other to, like you said, just give each other the information. If not, I don't know if you can get, like you were saying, like the lawsuits or legal stuff involved with getting information out of someone. I don't know if it'll come to that point, but oh boy. Let's see, this is why I don't watch the news as much as I probably should, but
I wanted this to be like a hope stream or a HopeCast or whatever, and I wanted to talk about like, what do we do next? These are the steps that we do. That's what I was thinking that we could do, but it's just like reviewing the past 14 days or whatever has just been like tragic.
Right.
It's just so aggravating.
Do you want to talk about how Florida did in the?
I was so disappointed. So disappointed in Florida. Florida sucked ass, like it normally does, I guess, but exponentially worse because we voted for Trump, and we voted majority congressional districts, I believe, are Republican, I think.
Yeah. For sure.
Let me see here. U.S. House. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oh, wait, no, it just says it right there. I'm so literally gives me the count. 16 Republican Party House elections, 11 Democrat House elections. Which is just extra sad. Also, looking at the House of Representatives map and how those districts lie out, it really is concerning because I feel like some of those districts could be redrawn and they would take away Republican districting, is my guess. My guess is that they gerrymandered those districts, and my other guess, like they combined Jacksonville and Tallahassee into one district.
Right.
That's a little weird. That's really weird. It's almost like if the census would have probably dictated that and possibly changed stuff. Also, gerrymandering doesn't help. God.
Man, I haven't taken a look at this. I'm looking at the New York Times version of it. It's 70. So the state Senate. The state Senate has 11 Republicans and 9 Democrats. The state House has 77 Republicans and 41 Democrats. So it's basically a Republican majority across the board.
Yeah.
I guess that's not surprising.
For Georgia, now we do own the House as like a nation. The Democratic Party has the majority in the House of Representatives, but
Georgia. What was going on with Georgia? Had to elect like 2 senators or something.
So they have 2 senators that they're electing, and they both ended up going to runoff elections. And this is why. Okay, so this is what I was talking about with the. Wow, can I pull it up, please? This is what I was talking about with the concern about multiple leftist parties running in the same area and then throwing an election for us. Because a Republican singularly ran and ended up getting a majority vote count compared to the 2 individual leftists who ran. So I don't know if you're looking at like the AP or New York Times or what have you, but just looking at...
For Georgia?
Yeah, for Georgia. So looking at the special election, the Democratic Party, with 98% of the vote reporting and in the special election for Georgia, the majority technically was Raphael Warnock, 32.9% of the vote. However, if you look directly underneath that, you have Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins. Kelly got 25.9% and Doug Collins got 19.9%. If you were running as a Republican in that state for that specific seat in the Senate, I don't know who the hell let this happen in the Republican Party, but it was stupid on their part. They should have had just one of those people run, and they would have won that. They would have won that easy. But that exact thing, if you reverse the parties to like, I don't know, like instead of Republican, it'd be like Democrat and like DSA or whatever. All of a sudden, either we're going into a runoff election or the vote was just over enough that it was able to get a Republican into office instead. In what would normally have been like a blue or like whatever DSA color is. I think it's also red. But
yeah, I think you're right.
But it's just that's what I was talking about. Was like what I'm concerned about is the potential for splitting the vote so hard, because Republican could have very easily won that. And then if you look at the other election as well, Purdue, Republican, 49.7% of the vote, John Ossoff, 48% of the vote, and Shane Hazel, who was a Libertarian, got 2.3% of the vote. If those people who voted Libertarian voted Republican, that would have been a Republican seat. Again, but instead it's going to a runoff election. And this is what I'm talking about with like the third party thing. It's like, I don't know what's better at this point. Do we go for the party that like definitely has our morals and ethics? Or do we stick with the power base where we can guarantee that we're going to get a vote turnout? Right. Because we have an example like the Justice Dems. I'm pretty sure they're all like socialists. I'm almost certain that at least AOC is a socialist. Right. What was I going with this? And obviously they don't sit with the in-house Democrats who've been sitting like AOC's openly criticized Nancy Pelosi. She obviously doesn't sit with them on like most issues. But she's still running within the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, as a presidential nominee, ran within the Democratic Party twice and almost got the nomination twice as a Democrat. Right. He would have never gotten that if he ran DSA.
Right.
So it's sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you think he would have been able to beat Trump?
I don't know. That's complicated. He would have definitely lost Florida no matter what, because the Cuban vote would have not been for Bernie Sanders, because it definitely wasn't there for Biden. I don't know if he would have gotten as many of the Georgia stuff. I don't think he would have gotten Georgia at all. So that's a tough call to make. I know in my heart I want to say yes, because he's just like such a charismatic, influential figure. But if we're looking at like how the election actually turned out, people like in Florida, they voted for some leftist policies, but they still voted Republicans almost down the board. So it kind of goes to show that people are more interested in the policies rather than the politician like name or maybe even the party and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of that, the wage thing in Florida.
Oh yeah, the amendments.
Like the fact that we got the $15 an hour thing at 60%, like that really surprised me.
Let me pull that up. I was sad that the require citizenship to vote passed with like almost 80%. That was kind of sad. So I feel like that's a foot in the door to other measures to suppress voter rights.
Oh, I know.
But we'll see. I mean, it was strong. Like 8 million to 2 million. That's a really strong lead. So I thought that sucked. The as predicted, the extend save our homes, which was the homestead property exemption from 2 years to 3 years on something specific, and then the extend veteran property tax discount that obviously got passed.
Right.
Those two things got passed.
Yeah.
Require amendments to pass twice. I'm glad this failed. 52%, but it's not an easy win for us. 52% is not a comfortable lead to have.
For which one?
For require amendments to pass twice. So you'd basically have to hold a referendum after you would elect to have an amendment.
Right.
That one's kind of scary. And then this other one I don't understand because some of these others don't have the 2/3 majority. Florida amendment to raise minimum wage got 60%. I'm happy for that, but I thought you were supposed to have a 2/3 majority for stuff like that.
Is that not 60%?
It's 63%.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there's like a percentage amount where it's like if it's within 60 to 63%, that's fine. I don't know enough about voting in amendments.
This other one, the top two open primary system, that was a majority, but not enough of a majority.
Yeah.
57%.
So I don't know like what fuckery has to happen to like make an amendment pass. That just like it feels inconsistent. Feels very inconsistent. Maybe it's just above 60%. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, that's probably it.
But
that's also really close then. 61 for the minimum wage.
You know what this means? You know what all this means? It means nothing. It means we have to do the same thing 2 years from now. It means we have to participate in every single local election that we possibly can. And it means we have to participate in every single mainstay election every 4 years. We have to advocate every day of our lives until we're dead and like brittle to the bone and like reaching out, asking for bread on the streets or something. Like every single day.
I just keep on wishing for a goddamn asteroid to hit the Earth. No?
That'd be pretty cool. I don't think we'd let it happen though. We have so many nukes. I think that'd be like the one event. It'd be like, all right, Russia, we're gonna do it. Are you gonna do it? And they're like, yeah, we'll do it too. And you see like 4 trillion nukes like go off in the distance, getting launched at an asteroid.
I'd be okay with it. But see, at that point, humanity might get back together. You know, it might unite us.
I don't know. There were so many potentially unifying moments in history, and we just squandered it all. It's all wasted opportunities. World War I was an opportunity. World War II was an opportunity. Literally, everything that's happened past like 80 years has been an opportunity. We live in such a great time. We've literally still combating a disease that came out of nowhere. We have a vaccine now that's going to be implemented. You know, it's going to take a while, but if this was 200 years ago, it would have just run its course, and we would all be either catch the disease or we'd become immune to it somehow, or with herd immunity, or we'd all have these like secondary symptoms after we recover, and we're all like fucked up, like polio would fuck you up.
Right.
You know, so much potential and it's squandered, you know.
It is true. I think there was a little bit of unification after 9/11 for a very brief moment in time, but after that it went to shit again, of course.
Yep. Weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, that was a shit show, of course. Yeah, man. So I think we covered a lot of ground today and just kind of recapped everything nicely. I don't have anything else to say on the matter. I'm actually getting a little tired. I didn't sleep as much last night as I thought I should have. But it's been a busy last couple of days for sure. That's definitely a factor.
Maybe next time we'll have the HopeCast. You know, maybe we'll lay the groundworks for like what we can do now, and what are the next steps.
Yeah, let's plan it out. Let's have that be our next episode.
We all have to move to Georgia. Everybody has to move to Georgia, establish residency, and sign up to vote before January so we can all vote for the Democratic senators.
I love Atlanta. Atlanta's a great city. I would love to live there.
It was really cool. We visited because my wife had a training there. We were like, oh yeah, let's just spend the day there. And then we went to the aquarium, and I cried. She cried because in
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The big aquarium.
Right.
But the whale sharks, man, brought me to tears. It was so beautiful.
Aren't they majestic?
They're so great. It's so great.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, I think we'll call it there.
HopeCast next week, I promise.
HopeCast is going to be the theme of next week's episode. We appreciate everybody, like I say in every episode, that's listened and that keeps listening. We know we're kind of a small audience now, but we're growing.
Yeah.
And it's been really great. Everybody's been really vocal on the Twitter page. And so thanks for everybody that's supported us so far. And I guess that's it. I guess we'll see you next week.